Hey everybody, it's Kendra. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you've been here before. My video today is kind of going to be like a what I'm watching, what I'm reading, what I'm listening to sort of video. I feel like I've just been encountering so many good films and documentaries and podcasts and music recently, and I just really wanted to share it. So that's what my video is going to be today. So anyway, let's jump into it. First, I want to talk about movies. I just watched two amazing movies last weekend, and I've been telling everyone about them, and they're so good. First one is called Kedi, K-E-D-I, and this is a foreign film from Turkey. I believe it was like a YouTube Red original. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. If you are a cat person, watch this. It is all about the street cats of Istanbul and kind of how the residents of Istanbul just take care of the kitties, and like the kitties kind of become their friends and their family. Amazing. The whole time I was watching it, well, I watched it with my husband. The whole time we're just like, oh baby, what a beautiful kitty. Like, total cat people. Love that one. It's so sweet, so beautiful. The second film we watched was called A Taxi Driver, and this is a Korean film. And I loved it because I lived in Korea for 2 years, so it's like really like, oh my gosh, look, like, anyway, but this one is about a German reporter. It's actually a true story. German reporter who goes to Seoul. He hears about these riots going on in Gwangju, which is a couple hours from Seoul. So he hires this taxi driver to take him to Gwangju to kind of, report on this and get some coverage. And it's just kind of like everything that happens in Gwangju and then how they finally get out. Beautiful film. Beautiful film. I love the way it was shot, like just the emotions. It was just amazing. And the whole time I was watching that, I was like, gosh, I gotta start watching foreign movies again because they were just, beautiful. All right, next I kind of want to get into like documentaries. This next one is kind of like a documentary / movie. It's called Score. And this one is all about how the score of a movie is made. And basically, I had no idea that a film, obviously it's filmed and then edited, but there's no music first. Like the music comes after the whole film is completely edited. So it kind of goes through the whole process of creating the score, and then they talk to different composers and how the composers make the music, and then you see them actually recording with the studio musicians. Amazing. And plus they talk about John Williams, and like I love John Williams and all of the music he's done. Really, really beautiful film. If you are a musical person, it is just a feast for your ears. All right, and now we are getting into my favorite topic, which is like food and pharmaceuticals and corruption and all that. There's an awesome 6-part series, docu-series on Netflix called Rotten, and this is all about corruption in the food industry. So there's 6 episodes. Each episode covers a different topic. First one is about honey, then there's an episode about garlic, one about milk, chicken, fish, and then one kind of about peanuts, but that one gets into a lot of like food allergies and, kind of the impact that's having on the restaurant industry. Super interesting. One little tidbit I learned from this, most of the garlic that the US, most of the peeled garlic that the US imports is actually coming from China. But it's peeled by China's prison population. And like, that to me just sounds like really cruel and inhumane. But then when you learn that a lot of the prisoners, they're peeling garlic for like 16 hours a day, they end up losing their fingernails from this. That's terrible. So to me, anybody who eats, which is all of us, should be watching stuff like this just to become more educated on where your food is coming from and just kind of like the whole pipeline and everything that is happening before it gets to your plate. All right, another really interesting one I just watched. This one was recommended by a friend. It's called Take Your Pills, and this one is all about kind of Adderall and Ritalin, and how it's become really normal to just like give kids and teenagers and even adults just like, oh, you can't focus here, have some Adderall. But Adderall is like essentially a legal form of an amphetamine. It's like one molecule away from methamphetamine. So it's kind of funny, like the huge, like, oh my God, like crystal meth, like that's so bad. Like we know that's bad. But like, okay, like Adderall's okay. I don't know. I've never taken Adderall. Maybe if I took it, I'd have a different opinion. But anywho, that one was super, super interesting. And it I felt like it kept like a very balanced approach. Like it wasn't like, no, Adderall is bad. And like some people, obviously they like have benefited from taking it, but then they also talk about how addictive it is and how it just kind of like yeah, has altered people's minds and such. All right, I want to talk about a TV show really quick. This is super old school. I never watched Malcolm in the Middle when I was a kid and when it was actually on TV. I don't think my family actually had the channel to get Malcolm in the Middle. I don't even know what station it was on, but we were like an NBC, PBS, CBS, and ABC family. We didn't get like DirecTV or any of that till I was a teenager. But anyway, my husband loves Malcolm in the Middle, and we've been watching a lot of the old episodes recently, and it's just so cute. It's so sweet. I didn't really think I would like it when I first started watching it, but now I'm like, hey, can we watch an episode of Malcolm? Like, it's good. I've kind of grown to love it. All right, music. 2 things I want to mention. First of all, I love the band 30 Seconds to Mars. This is Jared Leto's band. They just came out with a new album, and I've been listening to this on repeat for like the last week. Yeah, it came out like a week ago. Super good. I love it. I actually saw 30 Seconds to Mars in Paris like 3 or 4 years ago. Amazing show. I would love to go see them again. But the closest they are to me is Chicago, and I just really don't like driving to Chicago. But anyway, that's a super good album. Also, I have been listening to a lot of classical piano music recently, particularly from the composer Eric Satie. He's a French composer. Oh my gosh, love it. I actually had first heard one of his songs in the French film Paris. A few years ago. I believe it's called like Nocien No. 1, and it's just so light and delicate, but it's kind of mysterious, and oh, love that one. So yeah, I recently stumbled upon that one, and I was like, oh, hey, like I need to listen to more of this. Love his music. It's just relaxing. It's not chaotic and stressful. It's beautiful. Definitely check out Eric Satie. All right, podcast. So my very favorite podcast that I listen to every week is called Good Life Project. And the guy who does this is named Jonathan Fields. And I love him. And he's like my guru. And love everything about Jonathan Fields. Plus I love his voice. It's just very soothing and like very chill, and love him. But anyway, he did an episode recently with this guy named Frank Lipman, who's actually a doctor. Like he studied Western medicine. He's from South Africa. But then he also studied like holistic medicine and Eastern medicine and acupuncture and all this. And oh my gosh, this episode, it was just like speaking to me, speaking my language, just loved it. You know, all about how like, sure, like maybe there haven't been all these studies like proving that if you remove gluten from your diet, like X, Y, and Z will happen. But he's like, you know what? If you take gluten out and you feel better, like why not? Like I don't need a scientific study to prove that. Like so what? If you feel better, just do it. So I was like, yeah, duh, of course. Also regarding Frank Lipman, Jonathan Fields had actually interviewed him a couple years ago. So then I went back and listened to that one as well. And of course, just loved it. And I believe Frank Lipman has a book coming out. It's called How to Be Well. So very excited to check that one out. Another podcast I've been listening to is Revisionist History. And this is by Malcolm Gladwell, you know, the author of like Blink and Tipping Point, all those. Love Malcolm Gladwell. I love his voice too. And he's just so brilliant. He actually did Revisionist History like season 1 a couple years ago. And I had listened to that and I loved it. But I didn't realize that he had done another season. And then one of my friends said he had, and I jumped on that. I don't think I've listened to every episode, but it's really interesting. He basically goes back into history and kind of picks somewhat obscure events and stuff you wouldn't normally think about. And then he just dives in and kind of like corrects some like misunderstandings around these events. So that one's super, super good. Also, the last podcast I've been listening to, I listen to this one basically every day. It's called The Daily, and it's from the New York Times. Love it. It's about a 20-minute podcast. I don't believe they do it on the weekends, but it's basically 20 minutes, and they dive into one current event topic for most of the podcast, maybe like 15, 16, 17 minutes. Just kind of talking about one thing that's going on, like in society or, you know, in the world, whatever. And then at the very end, they'll mention maybe, you know, 2 or 3 other news stories, like big events that are happening. But that's really nice. Like, you know, sometimes when we watch the news or whatever, you just hear like little snippets of it. But this, you know, they do more in-depth interviews, so you get kind of a broader perspective of what's actually going on. Alrighty, finally, books. So first book I don't actually have anymore because it was from the library and they needed it back. It's called A Mind of Your Own, and it's by Kelly Brogan. Really interesting book, kind of reframes this idea of anxiety and depression, not so much as like an issue and like the root problem, but more as like a symptom of some other kind of problem that might be going on in your body. So for example, they talk about like thyroid problems and how thyroid issues can cause anxiety or depression, how if you have like problems in your gut or problems with like nutrient deficiencies or imbalances or hormonal imbalances, stuff like that, that can lead to, you know, feeling anxious or depressed, but like as a symptom of it, like not like the root problem. It goes into like, you know, pharmaceuticals and how it's really difficult to get off of them and how it can kind of like, just kind of like alter who you are. Yeah, and it goes more into like natural healing. So if this is something you're dealing with, like I definitely would recommend that. I don't really consider myself to be like super anxious or depressed, sometimes more like anxious. I can definitely get anxious, but I have thyroid problems and I've been slowly healing them, and like I just feel way more even keel since I've started like treating them. So anyway, just like an alternative kind of look and reframing around anxiety and depression and how it maybe isn't like just like the main thing. Like maybe it's just one small thing and there's like a totally different issue underneath. All right, and the other books that I've been getting into are all about gardening because obviously I'm planting a garden this summer and I have 2 community garden plots reserved. Well, I don't think they've cashed my check, so hopefully I get my 2 plots. 1 plot in one garden and then 1 plot in another garden. First one is called The Heirloom Life Gardener. And this is by Gier and Emily Gettle. These are the people who own Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, and that's actually the company I got all my seeds from. And then I've also been reading this one, Your Farm in the City, and this is by Lisa Taylor. And this is all about, you know, gardening in a city without a lot of space. Really, really interesting. I believe the author is from Seattle, so it kind of talks about like what she has done to garden in a small space. And obviously I won't have a massive space to garden in, so it's very, very helpful to just figure out how to like maximize what I'm doing in a small space, which leads me to this one, square foot gardening. I have not actually started this one, but I want to mention it because someone actually recommended it to me. So thank you very much for that. And this one, again, talks about how to really, you know, make good use of your space. Because if you are limited on space, you don't want to just, you know, like not pay attention. You want to just really plan it out and have a strategy. So I'm still working on my strategy, but we will get to that and I will keep you updated on that. Alrighty, so there you go. That is what I have been entertaining myself with recently, like in my small amount of free time. Really love all of these. Very excited by all of them. Also, I would love to hear any recommendations you have regarding podcasts or movies or TV or books or whatever. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!